Good morning, YouTube. This is Shodan Prepper. Interesting question. What does shit hit the fan actually mean? Now, a lot of people feel that prepping is about doomsday and about the end of the world. To be honest, very few preppers are actually focusing on the world has ended. Simply because a few months of supply of food, a very nice garden, whatever your preparations are, you're probably not going to get through it. And it's a very negative viewpoint as well, that tomorrow everything will end as we know it. However, there's always a possibility, and it's not remote, that things tomorrow may be different. Now, we come to expect that tomorrow will not be the same as today, yesterday may not be the same as today. And the question is how different it will be. Now, if shit hit the fan, you may be looking at you've lost your job. Your car broke down. Whatever has happened in your life that you feel that's made life more difficult, you can actually in some way prepare for. This doesn't mean building a nuclear shelter. This doesn't mean having 5 years supply of food. This does, however, mean that you've got enough food in the house so that you haven't got to go shopping if you do lose your job. This does mean that you've got a bike in the shed to get to work with if your car breaks down. Or you've got a friend you can phone to fix your car. Whatever you do in your life that you feel is just getting you that little bit ready for what may happen, that makes you a prepper. So it's not all about doomsday. In my case, I feel that tomorrow or the next day or at some point, the British pound is going to lose more value than we can really afford. Each year, our wages go up slightly. The cost of basic amenities goes up. We counter that somewhat, especially as far as looking overall at the economy in the UK, by buying cheap Chinese products, which are generally reasonable quality, extremely cheap. Most things are now free postage. Even most suppliers are using the cheap Chinese stuff, and Chinese knockoffs are very similar to what you can get in the UK or the US for considerably more. Okay, now that offsetting doesn't really reflect of how much it's actually costing to buy a loaf of bread, how much it costs to buy a pint of milk, how much it costs to feed yourself or your family, which has gone up. I've got no question about that. I've also seen in my experience that when things go wrong, that people automatically panic and the first place they go to is the supermarket. And I've seen people argue and get in scraps over the most stupid things. A flan base. 2 women fighting over a flan base because they thought they were the person that saw it first. It was the last one. I mean, seriously, who actually needs a flan base? How do you prepare? Well, in my case, I try and keep a reasonable amount of food for me and my family at home. I have my go bag in case I need to get out of Dodge for a little while. It's not so much running away from anybody in particular. It's more of just having an ability to go out somewhere nice most of the year and practice some abilities that maybe are useful in the future. That's the go bag to me. It's not, oh crap, the police are coming for me. To be honest, I don't break the law. It's unlikely that Gestapo Britain will happen, I think, in any time soon. Do not believe we are in a frog boiling a bowl of water situation at this point. As I say, I don't feel that bunkers and hiding yourself away is necessarily the right thing to do. I mean, there is certain things in life that would make those useful, and I don't mean ridiculous impossible chances. I mean like relatively reasonable chances of things like EMP. Electromagnetic pulse, means that, well, we don't really know. We know that a lot of electrics have very fine components in them, and an EMP will just fry them. Now, I've heard some people say that small portable devices that aren't connected to the grid are most likely to survive an EMP. I've heard of two different ways of having an EMP occur. One is a nuclear attack, generally at high altitude, because it would get the best dispersion of the EMP. And the other one is a solar flare. And I know that sounds ridiculous, a solar flare, but it's called the Carrington effect because it's happened before. It could happen again. But we're not talking on outside chances here. I'm talking about what I feel is going to happen tomorrow. And that is, I feel that there's going to be something different tomorrow than there is today. And for that, I try and make sure that I am as ready as I can be to deal with tomorrow. That doesn't mean not living today. In fact, I would say prepping has gotten me so much more into my current life. It's got me out into the countryside. It's got me focusing on retraining skills that I thought I'd lost, and to try and improve my fitness because I am very overweight. So getting out in the countryside is definitely very healthy for me. Storing some water and some food, I think, is perfectly legitimate whether you're a prepper or not. How much that is, how long that's going to last, is another thing. For instance, we very often don't get the same long life products that you get in America. So our tinned food is generally quite poor quality, not particularly enjoyable, and not necessarily something you'd want in your daily diet. As such, storing up a larder full of tinned food is not necessarily the right thing to do because it's going to go off. Whereas in the US, the long life food is something you can cycle through a lot better. There are some things you can get, like the Mountain House products, are extremely expensive, and they do last a long time, but they're a huge investment. But having a reasonable supply of that canned food, reasonable supply of the Mountain House food, a reasonable supply of rice and pasta in Mylar bags is not an expensive proposition, and it's not a ridiculous one. And the odd nights you don't feel like cooking, you have got a tin of food that you can go to. The rotation is more difficult, I will admit. There are lots of pouches of long life food that are actually very tasty and not particularly unhealthy for you, and I did enjoy some of those just the other day in Wiltshire on a wild camp. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so I'll end up by saying that prepping is not doomsday. Prepping is about believing that tomorrow may not be better, it may be worse, whereas the general human consensus is today's a bad day, tomorrow will be better. Now, it's not about being negative there, it's just about the fact that you need to be realistic in life, that tomorrow could be worse, and how much worse could it be, and what you do to deal with that can easily be helped by having a few things ready for when tomorrow isn't a better day. Thank you very much.